For more than 60 years, IEL has worked to transform systems by reimagining education and activating leaders. We change systems through people based on the belief that when systems are stronger and leadership is shared, communities and young people thrive. IEL has been the home of the Coalition for Community Schools since its inception in 1997. And as the coalition comes up on 30 years next year, IEL has proudly been its backbone from the beginning, long before the term backbone was used in this context. But this was only possible through deep partnerships with many, many organizations and communities, some represented in this session as well. And together, we've brought the dream of collaboration, collective impact, and improved outcomes for children, youth, and families. I want to thank IEL's Community Schools team, our partners from around the region who you'll hear from today for the hard work in organizing this virtual learning session. I also want to thank each of you for taking the time to learn in public and connect with others trying to create a better world, one classroom, one school, one neighborhood, one community at a time. Today's theme is anchored in purpose, aligned for impact. And in boating, when you drop anchor, you stop a vessel from drifting due to currents, tides, or the wind. As a metaphor, being anchored in purpose means to settle down, to establish oneself, to pause in a specific location for a period of time. Many of us are having to navigate dangerous, almost treacherous waters in these times. We know we can't stay in one place forever, but sometimes we have to drop anchor to reflect on where we are, commit to staying the course, or charting a new one. I encourage all of you and all of us to stay anchored in purpose and never forget that the more we are aligned, the better chance we have to achieve the impact we all want and our young people and communities deserve. And so with that, I wish you guys a great day. I'll be here with you. I want to turn it over to Jolene and thank her personally for all of her leadership in pulling this together. Jolene?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. First, for those of you who may not know, I am Jolene Collins, and I'm a regional director here at IEL and support community schools across the country, hyper-focused on the Northeast. And the way I see my role is really being a bridge of support to strengthen and scale initiatives as defined by you all. So I have the privilege and honor of connecting with community schools across many, many states and learn about the great work that you are doing. And so many times I'm like, I wish other people could hear this, right? Like, I wish people can learn from what you are doing. And so these regional convenings are a way for us to learn from one another, understanding that everyone has expertise in this work. And so I'm just really excited to be able to connect you with one another throughout the day to just really learn from one another. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat, to raise your hand. If there's someone that says something you're like, I want to learn more, ask them for their contact information, like follow up. We are all in this together and no one knows it all. With that being said, I do want to give a special shout out to our planning team. I do not do this work alone. No one does this work alone. And today would not have been possible without the support of our planning team. And so, Bernadette, Cherie, Joseph, Nimsy, Luann, Tanya, Kelly, Jennifer, and Flora, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if we could just give them kind of a round of applause. That would be great. And the way this came together is I put out a call. I said, hey, does
Good, good. How
anyone
you
want to
doing?
help me plan this virtual convening? And they're like,
How
yep, we'll
you
do
doing?
it. And we had a really good conversation around what's needed right now, specifically for the Northeast region. What are the strengths? What are the tensions that people are feeling from coordinators in school to state leaders trying to support and scale this work system wide? And what immediately came up was purpose and alignment. to where how do we communicate about the work that we are doing and get others bought in to see the vision and purpose of community schools, right? And then there's others who's been on this journey for decades. And they're like, we need to align. We need to be consistent in our approach and our messaging. How do we fully integrate ourselves into the schools and into larger strategic plans and priorities without it feeling like an add-on? Right. So that was a lot of the conversation. And we said, hey, let's focus this whole convening, right, on alignment. And so if you are someone who are like, wait, I need the 101. Listen in, you'll get some of the 101 gems, but also message me if something's like, hey, I'm not sure what we're talking about here. Because this is almost kind of like a 102 in a lot of ways, but definitely here to support. In the survey, we also chose breakout sessions based off of responses when people signed up for the survey. And there was some interest in communications, and I want to acknowledge that. And that's something where we want to explore and dig a little bit deeper on because there's many nuances to communication. And so something will likely be coming out in the fall, early spring regarding support around that. And there was also a policy and practice that there wasn't a ton of interest. So I'm going to open it up more so as a breakout room towards the end in those small group discussions. But with that, what is it that we are actually focusing on today? Here is our journey, and I will put a link to the agenda in the chat for those people who are more visual learners. And today we have a great day. It's really built as a way for you to be able to jump and go as your schedule permits. We're, of course, doing the opening now. Dr. Helen Malone is going to give us an update just on a federal policy landscape. We'll also do some state shout outs. We're going to go over some coalition building 101, really to anchor us in that purpose. And then we're going to have a series of breakout sessions that's all focused about alignment, whether you're at the school district, or the school level, or a community partner trying to break in, or a state level, like we have you covered. And then we also heard that people just want unstructured time to connect. And so the small group discussions are really going to be focused around a problem of practice that you may want to dig deeper in. It's lightly facilitated, not really. It's your space to connect on what matters to you most. So, if this is our agenda, we do have some agreements and norms. So, norms help set expectations on how we are going to engage with one another. I'm not going to go over all of this completely because you can read it, but one thing I want to add just a few things. One, if possible, please keep your cameras on. It's no fun speaking to a black screen, and many of us do have double screens. So, especially when you are in the breakouts and your presenters are presenting, if possible, please keep your cameras on. Next is kind of take care of yourself. If you have to take a call, please remember to mute yourself. And if you need a break, feel free to take one as you need it. So, with that, is there anything that anyone wants to add in terms of norms? No? All right. I am going to do a quick shout out for the different states. So here, I am going to ask everyone to turn off their cameras. And when I call your state, I want you to come off mute and I want you to just turn on your cameras and say, yay, right? So this can be a visual for us to know and have a better understanding of who is in the room. All right. All right, let's get going. Do we have anyone from Maine?
Yay! Hi,
Yay! Go
everybody.
Maine! Love it, love it. Welcome, welcome. All right. Do we have anyone from New Hampshire?
Yay!
Yay! Welcome, New Hampshire. So glad that you are here with us. All right. What about Vermont? Do we have our people from Vermont? Not yet. I know they registered, so they will be here soon, hopefully. All right. What about Massachusetts?
Massachusetts in the house,
Woo!
yes.
Yay! Thank you, Massachusetts. Excited for you to be here. I don't think we have anyone from Rhode Island, but I'm still going to shout out Rhode Island. Rhode Island, are you in the house? Okay. What about Connecticut?
Connecticut in the house.
Yay!
Yay!
Love Connecticut. Welcome, Connecticut.
Yes.
All right. What about New York?
Yay!
Let's go, New York.
All right. Go Knicks. I love it. New York. Thanks
Bells.
for being here. What about New Jersey?
If you're to me, you know where they're chilling, make a smile, photograph.
New Jersey is here.
We're here.
Yay!
We're here.
Welcome, New Jersey.
Mhm.
I thought you guys were doing like a music intro. I was like, okay. Perfect. All right. What about Pennsylvania? Hold on. Let me mute that person. What about Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania here.
Yay!
We're here.
Welcome, Pennsylvania.
Yay!
All right. What about Delaware? No Delaware? Okay. What about Maryland?
Maryland
here.
Hey.
PG County.
Yeah,
I'm right
Maryland's
now.
here.
PG County.
Oh yeah.
Woo, woo. Maryland. I'm also in Maryland, so special
Oh,
love
yeah.
for Maryland. What about DC? Anyone from DC? No? Okay, not yet. I know there's some folks that registered. And then also, I want to give a shout out to Puerto Rico. I don't think they are here, but I will say Puerto Rico.
I'm gonna shout out Puerto Rico because that's my island, but I'm in Maryland.
Puerto Rican
Love
in
it.
the house.
So I'm gonna represent Puerto Rico.
I would like to be in Puerto Rico.
Me too. Me too. No, I didn't see that they were able to register, but they are part of our region, and so definitely want to show some love to them. I also know we had some folks who have registered that are not technically part of the Northeast, and that's okay. If you want to shout your state out in the chat, we still have lots of love for you, and just so glad that we are able to come in this space together. Yes, how can I forget Virginia? Anyone else from Virginia? I know Danielle and Alex are. Yes, I see Illinois. Liz is repping Tennessee. Okay, Tanya as well. Well, thank you, thank you. We love our friends near and far. And once again, really want this to be kind of a community feel for today's event. So with that, I am actually going to hand it off to Dr. Helen Malone. To provide a federal policy update. As you may know, as a coalition, one of the ways in which we support and help build the movement is by advocating for community schools at the federal level and also tracking state policy. So Dr. Helen Malone is going to give us an update on the work that's being done to date. Helen?
Thank you. Thank you, Jolene. Hi, everyone. I'm Helen Malone. I'm Chief Strategy Innovation Officer here at IEL. I want to thank Jolene and the Planning Committee for their leadership in putting together this wonderful convening. So thank you so much. And I also wanted to do a shout out to our policy team, Dr. Michelle Leslie Blackburn and Maddie Park, who are doing great work day to day to make sure that you're up to date on federal policy, as well as have various tools and resources to support all of your policy work. on the state and local level or at a national level as well. I want to just briefly pause and just offer a few highlights that have happened in June. Some have happened as recently as yesterday. And these are just some of the highlights. And I'll also share some tools that in the chat after in terms of where you can find more tools and resources and news on federal policy and how to stay in the know. So one of the pieces to start first with the Office of Budget Management, the executive branch has engaged in various rulemaking processes in addition to what we see in the legislative branch around policy. So on the executive side, there has been a proposed rule that can carry potentially pretty significant changes to the grant-making process of the federal government that spans all agencies. They just closed the comment on Monday and had some 82,000 comments, mostly in opposition. And one of the reasons is that the rule is proposing more flexibility to the administration and future administrations around power to revoke federal grants, whether they're multi-year or short-term, as well as potential changes in rules while somebody's mid-grant. And so, of course, some of the opposition pertains to potentially challenges in sustainability planning. And there's also adverse potential concern around interest in applying for federal grants and what might be some unintended consequences as a result of that rule. So we have put in a comment as well as many other organizations, and we just want to kind of share that with you. OMB is now required to kind of look through everybody's comments, the whole 82,000, to respond and see what changes or not they would like to make to the rule. The other piece I want to highlight, there's been a lot happening also pertaining to the higher ed system. One is that starting this month, there's new set of federal student loan rules that were put in place. Among them is the new federal loan repayment options are being replaced to the previous income-driven plans. We're also seeing continuing phase out of the Biden era SAVE loan forgiveness changes as well. And then we're also seeing new borrowing limits for graduate and Parent Plus loans. And then we're also seeing some changes to the new lifetime borrowing caps. So overall implications are there are some new rules that are affecting both existing and future borrowers to pay attention to. The other kind of connected piece is related to a particular lawsuit, and that is that the U.S. District Court for the D.C. District has just issued at the end of last month a preliminary injunction blocking the U.S. Department of Education definition of professional degree that qualifies federal graduate student loans and implements loan caps. And so this block is in place until the lawsuit concludes. And so this does not impact the implementation of the loan caps or related to the Grant Plus loan program elimination. But the reason to highlight that is that there has been some changes earlier on this year related to professional degree when it comes to especially graduate schools. And there has been no changes in terms of teaching, education administration. They're no longer viewed as professional degrees. And so the implication to that is that it actually carries a federal student loan borrowing cap at $100K. So if we go to the next slide, I want to then highlight from some of the executive judicial pieces to also note that we are kind of running up to the August recess. So there's a lot of activity happening in Congress. One of the notable pieces that you have seen probably from us, and we have been updating with the last few months, pertains to the interagency agreements. So Representative Tim Wilburn from a Republican from Michigan has introduced a package of bills that is designed to really change the statutory requirement and sort of retroactively really legalize 10 U.S. Department of Education interagency agreements. While interagency agreements in themselves are not necessarily unusual, what has been unusual is some of these have moved some of the offices into other agencies that still carry statutory requirement to be run out of Department of Education. So some of the implications for you is that federal grants might be or continue to be spread out across multiple other agencies. And I put some of the examples here in terms of full service community schools, other HHS or Pell Grants, other Treasury or teacher preparation TRIO programs, other labor, or some of the functions of Office of Civil Rights out of DOJ. So there's been some changes and shifts, and we'll see sort of how this plays out through the legislative process as well. And then if we go to the next slide, so we also want to share with you around some of the materials that we have put together to kind of help guide and inform you. So each year, President kind of puts out a proposed budget, and then Congress in both chambers also proposes their own budget. And so on the House side, the full service community schools have been marked for zeroing out in the FY27 budget. And we see that reflective also in the president's budget. So kind of the ball is in in Senate court. And so what we are inviting you all is to really use this time this summer to contact your senators, to ask them to fund full service community schools, as well as to use this opportunity to host some site visits and invite decision makers of federal, state, and local levels to see all of your great work and the impact that community schools, family engagement, all of your kind of systems changing work, what this looks like, what this feels like, so they get to kind of know you in your community. And summer is a great time to plan this as well as to host some of those opportunities. I put here 3 screenshots, and I'll also link to this later on in our chat. We have a monthly policy update that our wonderful policy team pulls together. And this is really an opportunity for all of you to be in the know of what is happening on the federal level. We also have various like how-to tools in terms of how to contact your representative via email or phone, how to organize a lot of these elements of advocacy. And then we also have various other links to other tools and messaging guides to kind of help and support the work. And then we also run Education Policy Fellowship Program, which is another opportunity to kind of learn hands-on how to build coalitions, how to advocate and to create change in your community. So just want to give you some brief highlights. There's a lot more to learn and read in our monthly federal policy updates. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Jolene. And we have another slide. Jolene, I don't know if you want this in chat because we have about 100 people online, but we did want to give you an opportunity to also shout out some of your state level wins and lessons learned in terms of now that the state legislative session is almost concluding majority of the states. What have been some of the state wins that you have experienced and also some of the key lessons that you have learned? So Jolene, I'll turn it over to you to see if we want to do it live or in the chat.
Absolutely. I'm always a fan of a little bit of chaos. It keeps life interesting. So I'm curious to know for you on the call who may be working at a state level, are there any state level wins that your state has had that you want to shout out, policy wins? Feel free to come off mute. I'm also aware of some of the state wins, so I may call on you. All right, you're forcing me to do it. And Hannah from Maine, tell me about what was passed in Maine in support of community schools at the state level. Cough, cough funding. If you're able to come off mute.
Oh, hi, Jolene. Talking about what was that was passed, the funding? What was for the partnership program?
Yes. I was thinking about the allocations to continue the RFP process to support community schools in Maine.
Yes, I mean that is something that is continuing. We do continue to have the $250,000 per year that we're able to do a small amount of seed funding for the schools that are implementing. We distribute it through an RFP process. But I believe, Melissa, you might know more about the other legislation. It didn't come with a lot of money attached to it yet, but they did pass something where there's now like a fund that people can contribute to that will help to support community schools.
Yes, in the last legislative session, we set
Right.
up, we passed some, well, not we, but they passed legislation that allows for funding to go to community schools. And it's basically a placeholder. And because the legislation's now there, even though it is not currently funded, it exists. So there is an avenue through which money can be allocated to community schools in a form beyond the 250,000 that is in the annual operating budget for community schools in Maine.
Beautiful. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to share?
Jolene, this is Danielle from Virginia. We had requested level funding, and at the end of last year's legislative session, we got a very nice surprise that the state and General Assembly had awarded us an additional $2.5 million. So we were able to bring on a second cohort of schools and divisions to implement the community schools framework. And this year they added more to our budget that we were, again, not expecting. We were expecting $5 million because, again, that's what we had seen in the budget. And we got very fortunate and we were awarded $7.5 million in our budget. So we are going to take those funds and, again, bring on additional schools and divisions across the state. And we have come out with an impact or an evaluation report that was released in January from our previous administration. And then we also just released an additional impact report to showcase what this work looks like across the state, so that each of the schools and divisions are able to tell their own story and use that as a tool and to meet with their local legislators and during site visits. So we feel like those are all great wins for us. And Alex Javna, my supervisor and counterpart, just dropped our links in the chat. So if you'd like to take a look at either of those, they're linked in there.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I know Washington, D.C. is not on the call, but they have also had some wins in being able to maintain some funding to support their community school coordinators and having that shift be from directly to schools to the district office, as well as to continue to run a grant program similar to many other states to support community schools. So we are at time, but before I transition, I definitely want to kind of open the floor up to see, I'm actually going to call Ali out because, sometimes we have some wins that we are going for, or we're trying to push policy, and we're not always successful. And it takes time. So I'm curious to know, are there any lessons learned from any state, not just Ali in New York, but are there any lessons learned that folks have as they were pursuing policy or advocacy, either at the state level or even the local level? We'll take about 2 more minutes.
I can jump in. Thanks, Jolene. I think this is certainly a long-term process for us in New York, trying to get some additional funding support. And we have been working over the last couple years with 2 distinct asks. One for funding. We kind of have funding for community schools in New York. It's not new funding and it's not dedicated funding, and we really want that. So one ask is for that. And we've been able to get support on both the Senate and Assembly side. And so I think right now our main priority in the coming year is working with our governor's office to make sure that when we get that legislative support, the funding stays in the final budget. And then our other ask is for county coalition work to help support the structure for community schools and supports across the state. And there's definitely been some momentum there. It's a smaller ask, so that's one that too we understand it takes time to get these through. We hear an average of 7 years, and we've been going a little bit longer than that, but we're going to get there. And that smaller ask is a newer one, a couple of years only. So we're gonna keep going.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Is there anyone else that wants to come off mute and share? It can be either a win or it can be a lesson learned.
Jolene, I just want to share quickly that we started that legislation. The legislator that put it forward did put a monetary note on it, and we had to back that out in order to get the legislation through. So sometimes, even though you desperately might need money, if you can get the bill in place, then hopefully you can populate it later. But just to say that, sometimes where you start is not where you end up.
Absolutely. It is a journey. I recognize that there are some people who are in schools, right? You're like, I'm a community school coordinator. I don't know how I can support at the state level. My advice to you would be to connect with your state coalition if you have one, and if not, connect with me, and I'm happy to help you think through what does it look like to advocate. As Helen shared, that IEL is going to be releasing a series of tools like literal phone scripts that you can use to call your local legislator to explain about the great work, but also site visits. Site visits, and when we're talking about policymakers, it's not just your member of Congress. It can be your school board, right? It can be other people with influence. Tell them about the story of your community school. And so, is there anyone that perhaps works at a school level that has hosted a site visit and seen great success with it and have any tips on how to even do that well? Because that can be a great starting point of just invite people in and then begin to build relationship. Is there anyone that may want to speak to that?
The name's Devon Wimberly from New York, and I'm here in the state capital, Albany. Shout out to my girl, Allie Liddy, for putting us down, and my man, Joe Fantagrossi. Yeah, we appreciate y'all with the coalition. Gabriela Romero, City Council, has stepped into Sheridan Preparatory Academy with an invite from a community school site coordinator. We have 8 community schools here in the heart of the capital. And I would just share this, that you wouldn't lose anything by having a councilwoman or a member of anyone of legislation walk through or have a site visit at your school. You could only possibly gain. And don't take it for granted that they don't know everything that's happening within your school. Just by inviting Gabriela Romero, what ended up happening is the school had a project of a park that they wanted to build on. It was tied up within the district of the school. And when Gabriela visited, she was able to move some chains and some pieces in order to effectively start the process of doing the work, the ground level work of seeing what was in the dirt, what was in the soil, how they could build it, how they could expand it. And that was only by inviting her. The next thing you know, Gabriela Romero was invited back, and she came back with her mother. And then they had like a dual language day because she speaks both Spanish and English. So I just shared that you could not possibly lose, but yet only gain at any level of inviting folks into your school for a walk across visit.
Thank you. Thank you. And congratulations on that success. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I hope they get what they want and what they deserve. And I see from Kelly and I see from Helen, it's about sharing your story. Like, you are the expert in your community. You are the expert of your lived experience and what you see on a day-to-day basis within those schools, supporting those kids and families and the realities of your community. So share it. Because people want to know. They want to know, how is what I'm doing potentially impacting your day to day? And so, yep, I see Angel. Massachusetts is working on this. I was going to call you guys out, but interest of time, I'm not. But completely agree. Share your story.